So, welcome to this week's episode of the Rock and Roll Ghost podcast. This week we have acclaimed actress Melora Walters. You know her from a bunch of Paul Thomas Anderson movies, Boogie Nights, Heart Eight, Magnolia, even in The Master. And her new film is Hard Luck Love Song, which she's promoting right now. And that's due to come out, I believe, in around October 15th, correct?
I don't know.
Okay. All right, perfect. I believe that's what I've read, but the state of things nowadays, who the hell knows?
Yeah.
How are you doing today, Melora?
I'm good. I'm happy to be talking with you.
Oh, good. I'm happy to hear that. So I love your background.
Oh, it's one of my paintings.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I wasn't sure what I was looking at. It's cool.
Oh, thanks.
Didn't realize you painted.
Yeah.
Okay. How long have you been doing that?
My whole life, and I went to Pratt and studied art, so that's my foundation is based on art.
Okay. All right. And have you done any gallery showings or anything like that?
I've shown around like Mary Karnowski's gallery, Jan Baum's gallery, Launch LA, and online. I'm not actually associated or represented by a gallery, but I would love to be.
Okay. All right. So, and you've been doing this pretty much your whole life then?
Yeah. I have an art website.
Okay.
If anyone's interested.
Yeah, and I'll make sure to post a link to, but you can go ahead and give it.
It's melorawaltersart.com.
Oh, that's easy enough to remember.
Yeah. But I wanna ask you. So when you were a food critic,
okay,
Anthony Bourdain.
Oh yeah, I got to interview him a few times.
So what was that like? And did you eat with him? And
no, I got to meet him twice. I did years before I started writing about food in earnest. I did a book signing. I went to one of his book signings and he signed a book, and then. He was in Chicago filming his last CNN Chicago show, and he was at a friend's restaurant, and the friend posted on Facebook, and I was at another restaurant clear across town in Chicago, and I was like wrapping up my dinner as fast as possible, and I hightailed it over there just to barely, as he was about to get out the door, to barely say hi and to finally introduce myself, because at that point we had spoken at least twice, and then we spoke again for the last time when the Chicago show actually came out. I've never had too many heroes in my life. He was one of them.
Yeah.
And it took a long time for me to get over that. He was an amazing person. Honestly, it was seeing that, even though I don't like the documentary much, it was seeing the documentary about him that kind of put something to rest. I don't know when I'll have the urge to revisit his work again. It's a weird thing because it's like I felt like I was in mourning for several years. And obviously he meant something to you.
Yeah.
How so?
Well, I have a son who's into cooking. So my son was like very young and went to he did a talk at UCLA and my son went and he was like the only kid there, and he just had this huge impact on him and even he was so upset about it, and so I got into it through him. He'd be like, watch this episode, watch this, and I just fell in love with him. And I love food, and I cook. My son's working his way up through the food industry, and because of him. And just that it's not just food. It's his approach to the world, and the world as a whole, and food as a whole. And his philosophy of life. I just like, why did he have to die like that?
That my ex-wife is the one. On the day it happened, I had just gotten up that morning, and she texted me, and I'm like, "What? Like she's got this wrong." There's just
Yeah, because
That's the way he went. I mean, I figured maybe he died falling off a cliff or something by trying to be a jackass or something, and
yeah,
something crazy, just or stampeded by a bull or got into some sort of weird conflict with warlords or something.
yes.
Like because he was getting bolder and bolder in where he would go. He went to, for God's sake, he went to Iran. He went back to Beirut after being involved in a skirmish in another episode in Beirut, and not a skirmish necessarily, but he was present in Beirut when all hell broke loose one time. It's like, and he went back there, and he's gone to Libya, and and followed around in Russia by probably former KGB agents and all this. You just didn't expect him, but now it with just everything I've read about him, posts, it's like, oh yeah, he really did focus a lot on suicide, but it was always in a kind of like this nihilistic kind of, just New York pessimistic kind of attitude. And I always thought, well, that's kind of how I look at it. And then I was like, oh crap. Like, am I going to have that day?
Right.
Yeah, it's, he had a fascinating way. And I think the CNN project got him finally to not have everything be about food. It was more about people. Like it took him a long time because his whole life was either about drugs or food or movies or books. There wasn't much beyond that because his time was narrow. And then he all of a sudden had this career where he could go travel the world, and it's still the focus still was about food, but it slowly became about people.
Yes.
And to see him be empathetic towards people that even, I mean, for God's sake, he went hunting with Ted Nugent, who couldn't have been more polar opposite of him, but they found common ground, and that was the kind of the beauty of him.
Yeah, that's the thing about him, to find common ground and such a joy in life and the opposites that we all contain and that the world contains, and yet he made it seem whole. Yeah. And so
yeah, he was a very special man. I would, the weird thing is, like, after the documentary, I up until that I thought, well, God, I wish I just had more time with him. Like I felt like I knew him well just from the show and then from talking to him a little bit, but I didn't really know him obviously well. But then after the documentary, I'm like, God, I was one of those people that was sucking his life from him. And I didn't, I didn't feel that for long, but I still felt like I was taking something more from this man when he didn't have more to give because of my wants. It's a weird, I get into weird philosophical headspaces about how I affect other people sometimes, because I've affected people negatively. I'm divorced, for God's sake, so I obviously affected somebody negatively. I grew up in a certain way too, so that makes me think of it. So I avoided doing certain things that, say, my father did, but then I ended up making sort of the same sort of mistakes, I feel, in some ways. And it's like, you really think about your impact on the world. I don't know, this is very esoteric, but it's just that I had a gnawing sense of guilt after watching the movie that I had taken from this man when he needed to be down. But the fact is, they're in the movie, the one thing that I thought was reassuring was the fact that his producers went to him and they said, look, we're ready, we could stop. I don't know if it was in the movie or somewhere else, but we could stop this whole thing. We, just, if you need to stop, we'll stop. We don't care. We want you to be okay.
right.
And he never stopped, because he couldn't. There was that addictive behavior.
Right.
Yeah, so I kind of let those feelings go, but I don't know. It's weird. Yeah, so where did I get interviewed? On the interview show.
So okay, but then
go ahead.
But with the other people in the food industry, did you ever have a chance to, like, come into the kitchen and try this.
Oh, for God's sake, I had so many. I wasn't actually a critic. I was just a writer because Lord knows, I don't have. I have the palate of of some sort of troll that lives in a cage. I love pretty much anything for the most part. But if you were going to ask me what wine goes with what, I wouldn't know a damn. I know I've had really great wines. I've had great champagne. I've had spectacular high-end food. I've eaten at two of Grant Achat's, of Alinea in Chicago, 3 Michelin stars. I haven't eaten there, but I've eaten at 2 of his other restaurants, and I've eaten in the presence of Thomas Keller, and I've met people like Jonathan Waxman and Jose Andres. I've gotten to do so many things. I've been to these amazing tasting dinners with these flights, in Wagyu and uni and truffles and all sorts of wine, and I've done a lot of cool things, but after a while writing about food became really weird because at the time I stopped, it was becoming rather gossipy and silly, I thought, in Chicago. I still talk to chefs. I just did an interview with Curtis Duffy of Ever in Chicago, which is a Michelin star restaurant, and he's an amazing chef and an amazing person. The food business is really a dazzling place, but I like going as lowbrow as possible, and I never fit in at highbrow places. I'm very working class, I guess, but I enjoyed it, nonetheless. I just always felt out of place, like I was an imposter, which is interesting.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing, but
yeah.
Food is food.
Yeah. How about you? Have you ever had any really amazing gourmet experiences?
I don't know. I mean, I've eaten in so many different places,
Yeah.
from holes in the wall to really nice restaurants. And in the end, I just love food. So when something really works, it's just amazing.
Yeah. You're in LA?
Yeah.
Okay. One of the best Chicago restaurants here just opened up an outpost there called Girl and the Goat.
Oh, write it down.
Write it down. That is, I don't know. I think their menu differs a bit from here, but the chef, she won Top Chef one year.
Okay.
And if it's anything like the one here, it's amazing.
Okay.
So I recommend that at least. And past that, I know nothing about LA cuisine except for like probably what's the burger place that everybody goes straight from the airport to?
I don't know.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, there's a burger. They've got supposed to be amazing burgers, but then there's Pink's and stuff like that. But right. I don't know much about LA, to be honest.
So I like the holes in the wall places in LA.
Yeah.
But the Getty Museum has a restaurant that's amazing, and it's seasonal, and it's like literally you want to, it's presented beautifully. Everything about it is beautiful, and it's the Getty on Sepulveda, so the view is insane. But the food is so good, you want to like.
Yeah. I've had some of those. I've had some of those dishes where tasting menus where one bite is so amazing you wish you could get it again.
Yeah, well, you just have to stop.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I have that problem where like when I really taste something spectacular, I really have to stop, slow down, and savor the moment because you don't get those very often. High-end fish and things like that. Yeah. Are you an omnivore or are you?
Yes, I eat everything.
Okay. In LA, you don't know, so.
I mean, I say I'm not like I don't eat like meat every day, and I'm very conscious of when I eat meat, and I think of the animal, and I apologize, but sometimes I need to eat meat.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not that bad. I mean, I get it though that we are entering an interesting phase in our time with regards. I mean, what was it? Epicurious stopped putting out new recipes for beef because of the environmental impact, and people
Yeah, I
are
mean,
about that. But it's like every other beef recipe is still on the site, so who cares?
right. Like I try not to, but then I find it does affect me not having it. I know there
I
are
think.
nutrients and minerals that can supply you with whatever meat
Right.
does to you. Um, and I guess now with COVID, they're finding that some animals are getting it, and I was thinking that's going to have a huge impact.
I haven't seen. I knew that they found in instances where some like felines, like tigers or even house cats, had it, which I thank God for having a dog, because it's the last thing I wanted to do is get my dog sick.
Yeah.
And luckily, how have you been through all this? How have you and your family and friends been?
My son and daughter are on the East Coast, and they've been fine. My son and his wife did get it, but survived.
Okay. How bad?
Pretty bad, but not hospital bad.
Okay.
My daughter's fine. I'm fine. I mean, we've all been vaccinated.
Yeah.
That's a big discussion as well. And now with the Delta variant, and who knows what other variants developing.
Well, the good thing is that I haven't seen anything, although there's a lot of news lately between the hurricane and Afghanistan. There's a lot of news, so maybe I haven't been seeing it. But so far, I haven't. There's a variant called Lambda in South America, but they've been the word so far is that that's not nearly as strong as Delta. So Delta seems to be the persistent one, and I haven't seen anything else popping up anywhere else. So, fingers crossed. This is the last one.
Knock on wood.
Yeah. If I'll knock on my head. Yeah. No, that's good to hear. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Awesome. Did you have any other questions for me?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, then we could get into you then. I appreciate being interviewed a bit, though. That was fun. Well, let's just get into Hard Luck Love Song. How did you come about this role, and what about it spoke to you? I haven't seen the film yet, so honestly, this whole interview came about very quick, much quicker than I assumed it would. I mean, I honestly, I have a little bit of trouble getting actors, quite honestly. So I'm very appreciative. We're getting better. I just talked to Joe Mantegna.
He's wonderful.
Oh, he is. And you were on Criminal Minds once, weren't you?
I think I've been on all of those shows. They all blur.
Yeah, they're procedurals. But actually, I was surprised to find out that's a decent one.
Mariska's show.
Oh, SVU.
Yeah, that was an exceptional experience, and she's just an exceptional human being and actress. I have just the utmost respect for her, and she's such an inspiration. And that particular episode was so beautifully orchestrated and so intense. I mean, as an actor, it's very rare that you get material that you can really, really work on, and that was like a highlight.
Good. Yeah, that's another one I got into very late. I ended up binging right before the pandemic. I ended up binging the entire series.
Oh my God.
In like about 5 months, just because I have a little bit of obsessive compulsive disorder where I need to just keep going. To the point where I watched so many episodes, I honestly can't. I would have to look at the episode to remember which one you were on, because there were so many. I look back at that show, there were so many people that became famous afterwards. That were on it, like in like the early days or middle days or whatever. that it's like, oh wow, there's that guy, and there she is, and oh wow, it's like I had no idea these people even did these things, but that show has had a lot of big names on it over the years. So I'm not surprised that I kind of got lost. I don't even remember hardly anybody, honestly. So one day I'll probably just obsessively compulsive watch the whole damn thing again, I'm guessing. Well, Hard Luck Love Song. How did that come about?
I was offered the role and I read it and I liked the story and the character was interesting.
What is your character in the movie?
She's a bartender.
Okay. And it takes place in Nashville?
Texas.
Okay, I got that.
I mean, they didn't shoot in Texas, but it's theoretically in Texas. Like the car he drives has Texas plates. Okay.
So. Okay. Where did you actually film it?
The stuff that I worked on was in Long Beach.
Oh, well, there you go. California production. Yeah. Odd that is more stuff happening in California now with COVID, you think?
I have no idea. I'm not the one to ask that.
Well, this is interesting. Who did you have most of your scenes with in the film? Because I know there's a lot of people. Eric Roberts is in it.
Yeah, I worked with Eric, and I've worked with him before, and I love him, and he's amazing, and he's like, he just takes his roles and he makes them real. I mean, he is real. That's exceptional. Like, yeah. He has this amazing career nonstop. And, he's the real thing. So it's always a gift to work with him. I saw the film yesterday. They let me see a screener. I've got to tell you that Dermot Mulroney is in this.
Oh, right.
He's electric.
Oh, cool.
He's so incredible that it's like, at first I was like, who is that guy? He's like really frightening. I mean, like amazing frightening. And then I was like, that can't be. And it was, it says my internet's unstable. Do you have me again?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, so he's electric. Selenia Rios did the wardrobe. So from the beginning, like her style, how she dressed me, she's incredible. So I hope they all, I mean, Dermot and Eric are famous, but I hope they all become famous. Michael Dorman is exceptional. And, it's really I think it boils down to a love story.
Yeah, Michael Dorman, I forgot until I looked him up again. He was on a really good show, the show I really like called Patriot on Amazon. He was the lead. And I believe he's Australian, something like that.
I don't know, but he's so committed to this role, and the camera just follows him, and he's just like he's riveting.
Yeah, good looking guy too.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel comfortable enough in my my status to. I can definitely say when a guy that guy's just very good looking, and that certainly helps. Sometimes I suppose too. What? So your overall impression of the film was positive then once you saw it? And you're in it.
What am I going to say? It wasn't. I mean, I'm here to talk about the film. No, it's
hell. Weirder things happened.
Really?
Not to me, but I've seen people do interviews where they say the movie is a piece of crap. So it's a weird counterintuitive way of promoting, but I've seen it happen. Usually the people that say it aren't usually in a good spot, though.
No, it's a lovely film. It's shot beautifully. The cinematography.
The trailer is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, the trailer is what really got me. I was just scrolling through social media and the trailer came up, and that's how I find out about a lot of projects nowadays. I find is just through. And it's not like a friend posted. It's just it's unfortunately that weird targeting stuff, right. And luckily right now my stuff is mostly music, films, and animal videos, so I don't get targeted with a lot of BS, which is great. I've definitely narrowed my focus down to a few things. Um, what other things have you been working on? I mean, you're doing your art, obviously. Is acting kind of taking a back seat to some degree, or you? No.
No, I'm on a show right now. I mean, it had been shot, but it's aired called Pen 15.
Oh yeah, yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that
So I'm in that. I guess I can say this because it was announced in Deadline. American Gigolo. They did a pilot for that, and it got.
Oh yeah, with John Bernthal.
Yeah, he's lovely.
Okay, and
yeah.
So you're in that as well.
Well, I have a small role in the pilot. Who you never know how it will unfold, but
right.
It was a really amazing experience to work on that.
All right, that's I was very intrigued when that got announced because and then especially that John was doing it. He's somebody I really like. He did a movie called Sweet Virginia that I really love. It's a very very small independent film about a very lonely guy at a roadside motel. And he's somebody I just love from so many different things. What was it like working with him?
It was amazing. Amazing. Yeah. Absolutely amazing. He's like in character, and he's, you're working together, and he's so smart, and he's giving. It was just really lovely experience, and he's amazing. I watched The Wolf of Wall Street again recently.
Yeah,
and I forgot that he's in it. And my favorite scene in that movie is when, he's kind of set up with he's supposed to take the money and give the drugs and, or something like that. Anyways, it's an exchange. And it's such a passive aggressive move, and he's just standing there like, what?
Yeah.
And then he goes down and gets arrested. But it's a brilliant scene on how you get caught off guard, and he does that's my favorite scene. And his reactions, he's so good. He's just so good.
He's been very good in a lot of things.
He can do everything, like he can come across as the big guy, and then he has this beautiful sensitivity and vulnerability.
Yeah, that's why I really appreciate Sweet Virginia, because that was a very interesting performance. He's got a bunch of stuff coming up too. That he's got another small, more independent film, and he's just, his career right now is on fire. I mean, he's in the Sopranos prequel and all this other stuff. He's just huge. And he seems, from what I can tell, he seems like a sweetheart. So
yeah,
that's cool. That's cool. Yeah. Well, let me ask you, just a general question. You worked on a lot of Paul Thomas Anderson's films. What was it like working with him on all those? I think the first movie I remember noticing you in specifically was Boogie Nights. I mean, there were so many people in that movie that it's like they had been working for a while, but I just noticed them for the first time in that movie for some reason. I remember just talking to Joe Mantegna about William H. Macy, and the fact is he had been making movies with Joe, movies I had seen, but not really remembered him from until I saw Boogie Nights, which is weird. And then I go back and I've watched all these things, and there he is, and so what was, I mean, because Paul has become just a legendary director at this point. I mean, he's become one of the top tier people. What was that experience like throughout those four films?
He's he's genius. I mean, I read Hard Eight, the script, I remember, and I put it down, and I called my agent and said, I don't care what role I play, I want to work with the man who wrote this. And I got lucky. It was like a gift. He's he's genius.
Yeah. And he's obviously very loyal because a lot of the same people appear again and again in his movies. I mean, Philip Seymour Hoffman was in a bunch of his films.
There's another one where it's like,
yeah, yeah, yeah. He was somebody it took me a while to appreciate. I think it was because Son of a Woman was the first time I saw him in something. He plays such a jerk, and sometimes when people play a jerk too well, I just kind of pigeonhole them as being like a jerk. And then, but then he all of a sudden, after Boogie Nights, especially, he became like this huge, presence in film, and some of his roles, even in films that necessarily aren't amazing, like Charlie Wilson's War, the Tom Hanks movie. It's a decent film, but he is stellar, in it. And then he did a movie set in Germany where he played a CIA officer that was just quite amazing. And yeah, just to see somebody, destroy themselves, is sad. It is really sad. Were you close with him at all? You made a couple of films with him, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you were close. I mean,
I knew him from New York, and so again, he's someone I always admired and respected, and I had no idea.
Yeah.
And
but people usually keep that close. Yeah.
It's not like I hung out with him, but when you're working on a film, there's connection because there you are working with people, and so I have great admiration for him and respect, and I think he too is like gifted in that way that's like lightning.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just too hard to contain. I don't know.
Yeah. There are some people that burn brighter than perhaps they can handle.
I don't know. Like, these are, we could have philosophical discussions about
right
this for hours.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, I have that, like when I was younger, I was a huge fan of Kurt Cobain, and when he went, that took, that tore, something out of me at the time. And as you get older and you read more about certain people that have made an impact in whatever entertainment or what have you, and who die, before their time, perhaps, you realize what their lives were like, what it was really like to be them, and sometimes it's people just can't handle what they're going through, and they don't see any other way out, even if they have adoring fans and millions of dollars, and none of that matters when you're trapped and you're alone.
Right.
Yeah.
Which goes for anybody suffering from that.
Yeah. And I mean, I could certainly attest that I've been in some dark places before. I feel better that I've never been in a place where I've actually contemplated it seriously. But, there is this nagging thing that sometimes, has floated through me in my whole life. And it's like, yeah, I get it. Sometimes those things just magnify the problems. They don't help them. They actually make everything worse. You think people always have the idea, well, if I just get to this point in my life, or if I just get this, or if I, have enough money, or but it's like, it's sometimes never enough, or it's never going to fix anything.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's a bummer. What was I gonna, oh, well, who was one of your favorite co-stars to work with, or who did you learn the most from so far in your career?
Mariska.
Yeah.
Let's see. Paul in his directing.
Yeah. Well, what did you specifically learn from Paul?
Well, Paul, with I mean, I don't know how he directed anyone else, but with me, he was very specific and quiet.
Mm-hmm.
So it brought me in a space where everything was very real.
Mm-hmm.
Ridley, I have a really small role in a Ridley Scott film, and he's similar. And so I think I learned most from these men who were really quiet and focused, and like ignore all that. I'm here with you.
Right.
Here, you're safe. Go for it. David Hollander on American Gigolo is like that.
Okay.
They talk very quietly, and so it's like, oh yeah, so everything else goes away, and you're just there. And when they're gentle, and like they love their work, what they, and they're creating and what they've written, then you can fly. It feels like, oh, okay, this works.
Yeah.
When I got in the actor's studio, Frank Corsaro was the moderator.
Okay.
And he really tapped into something with me and really pushed me in certain directions that I wasn't aware of.
Mm-hmm.
And so he had an impact. Yeah. I mean,
go ahead.
I think though that based on who I am, and how I work, on any set, I'm watching and learning.
Yeah. Do you feel like the examples you gave of like Ridley and Paul and I'm sorry, I already blanked on the American Gigolo director.
That's David Hollander. Oh,
David Hollander.
Here's what I learned. One of the biggest lessons. It was a film I got my SAG card for.
Okay.
And it was a Peter Weir film.
Okay.
At Dead Poets Society.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had never worked with a real director before. I had been doing films for students at NYU, Columbia, programs that had film schools or offshoots of film schools, or at Pratt, where I went, these wackadoodles, and where I'm literally doing things that are insane, and I'm having huge fights with the director because I'm like, you want me to submerge myself in a pond in upstate New York and it's March? What are you, fucking crazy? Yeah, but it looks so good on screen. I'm like,
yeah.
So I go to this set, Peter Weir and John Seal, the DP, and their brains are in sync. They don't even have to talk to each other. And I'm terrified. I'm thinking, well, if, like NYU director wants to kill me, this is going to be really bad. I'm going to die.
Yeah.
And I was terrified. So they're filming, and when I hit the mark, and I do my lines, and I think I'm performing properly. I'm doing everything properly. And then the scene ends, but no one has said cut. And I, and the other actor too, we were just like, and Peter took me aside and he's like, listen, I wrote this role. I had this idea about this character, okay? But you are more interesting as a human than a character on the page.
Yeah.
So fill it with life. Breathe life into it. And as long as that film is running, keep her going. I want to see, like, be real, be alive, breathe, use yourself. What would you do? And I was like, you're like handing me like a plate of that kind of food where you're just like, oh.
Yeah.
And that changed everything,
Yeah.
Nothing mattered but focusing on the director, the material, and then just bring it alive, because then they can take all the footage and chop cut into whatever they want.
Right. So get everything you can when you have the opportunity.
Because that's what they want for, because when you edit, you can completely change everything.
Yeah.
That was probably.
It seems like it was like your awakening almost.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Well, you think about somebody like Peter doing that, where he says he wrote it, but go with it, go where you feel the character would go, versus somebody like Paul, who obviously meticulously writes his scripts especially at this point. Even I'm figuring at the Magnolia stage, nobody was telling him no. What freedom do you have when you're doing a take with him?
Okay, here's the thing with him. Like, nobody's gonna say no to him. I don't imagine anyone ever saying no to him, because if you read his first script, it's magic. Okay? Yeah. So he writes in such a way that is so eloquent and so beautiful that you can become what he wants, with his guidance. So so it's like within what he has, it's very hard to explain what he has created. So he's created everything the way he's written. So you incorporate it and become it.
Okay.
So then you're breathing, but based on everything he's written, she would do this or that. And you also know, like, the way he works, that he's gonna guide you. So you put yourself, like, I'm here.
Right. You're clay, he's the manipulator of the clay.
Whatever you want.
Right. Yeah. Is there any deviation at all allowed when, from the script? Or is he pretty strict about, not strict in a negative sense, but strict in terms of, this is the way I wrote it. Don't ad lib, don't do whatever.
He doesn't have to talk like that. I've had people like that send the script supervisor in, and she tells you, you said, I'm gonna get coffee. It's written, I'm going to get coffee. And you're like, oh my God, sorry. Oh my God, I'm so stupid. And then, like, I'm going to, like, I can't say my line because I know I'm gonna say it wrong. That's not who he is, and he doesn't have to be that, and he doesn't have to send someone in to tell you you're an idiot. So,
so it's more of just you get the script, he's written it a certain way, and it's more of a respect of, that's the way he wanted it read, and you're not
going so long ago, I can't really remember. Okay. I just know that with him, even then, or if now he said, okay, I got this role, I just wanted to please him.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be it. I wanted to embody it. I wanted to be what he wanted, what he envisioned, what he wrote, what I thought it was. He's something else.
Yeah. No, I get that. I also get I also get what you're saying, where about, hey, I've got a terrible memory. So, like, remembering specifics, there are people, like my ex-wife could remember everything. And I'm like, she remembered arguments we had, and I'm like, what are you, a stenographer? I mean, how do I remember how I felt. I don't remember details at all. Like, so I'd be useless in, like, remember if I, like, took part in something, like, in a remembrance of it. Like, so what happened then? And I'm like, well, I don't know. Or I'd also be useless in case I got involved in some sort of, like, peripheral level of a crime of, like, what do he look like? I'm like, I don't know. I was just scared. I mean, like, I'm not the guy to go to for details. So I completely understand, like, not remembering specifics, because you do a lot of work. You've done a lot of stuff, and then sometimes, you're talking about a small, finite period of time. and remembering the
I just remember. Listen, I remember it was magic.
Yeah.
It was magic.
I remember more how you emotionally connected to it.
Yeah, it was the writing, him, working with him, rehearsing with him on the set with the people. It's everything I dreamed of.
Yeah.
That acting should be. And I just went into it, like diving to the bottom of the ocean.
Well, it's obvious he liked working with you, because I mean you've done four films. I mean, you both have plenty of room for career, more in your career. So, who knows? Were you surprised at how successful Boogie Nights ended up being?
I wasn't surprised about him becoming successful, hugely successful. Again, I'm going to tell you the first script.
Yeah.
Sydney, Part 8.
Yeah.
Right there. His first script. Right there. You're holding it and you're like, this is it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just it. That's who he is. Like, this is it. This is it.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, it's fascinating that, I mean, I don't know if somebody could make a film about the pornography business nowadays and have it resonate quite in the same way, perhaps. It's just.
But that's because I think it's not just about pornography. It's about relationships. It's about inner struggles. It's about, it's about humans.
Right.
That part is that part, but the essence is about this human. What brought this human here? Why are they here? What are they?
So many tragic and flawed people in that film that create this weird family. That's untraditional. But I just get now. Yeah.
There's no traditional family. There is none. Tolstoy talks about that. We're all suffering and miserable.
That sounds.
There Will Be Blood is my favorite Paul Thomas Anderson film.
Okay.
And Daniel Day-Lewis, another like the first time you see it, what was Laundrette? Was that his something?
That was one of his first ones, yeah.
Yeah, where you're just like, I don't know who he is, but that's it.
Yeah.
There Will Be Blood it's a brutal film. It's brutal, but this man lives this brutal life. It's this inner machinations. That's, how can you not relate to that? Because we all have this crazy inner machination.
No, that's true. I mean, I don't think a lot of people want to recognize the darkness or the brutality within themselves, and some people don't want to recognize the light and the humanity within themselves, like on the opposite end. I just read a review for a movie that I'm dying to see now. It's the new Jane Campion film with Benedict Cumberbatch called The Power of the Dog, and it sounds like a kind of a There Will Be Blood sort of thing. Oddly enough, Johnny Greenwood is doing the score, and he did There Will Be Blood as well. And it sounds like a very hard, brutal film about a very dark man. And after reading a review, I'm like, oh my God, it sounds incredible. It sounds like it's not going to be a fun time, that's for sure, because it nothing about it read like, oh, it's going to be light and breezy. But those films are necessary too. It can't all be fluff, that's for sure. What do you prefer? Do you prefer to go, I guess, grittier or darker, or do you like to mix things up a bit?
I just like acting. Yeah.
You've got an interestingly attitude towards your profession. It seems very pure and honestly, just sweet, actually, which is for somebody that's been in the business as long as you have, is kind of refreshing, because so many people get jaded by it. You seem to you still enjoy acting.
Yeah, I just like acting. I like when I audition, I'm like, I don't know if I'm right for this. I'll be like, well, I know who they should hire, and my manager will always say, stop casting. Like they wanted to see you, So then I'm
trying to get the role.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, but if I were casting, I'll tell you who you should just like make an offer to. But I definitely, struggle and work and try to find it and memorize and but then once it's like action cut, even if you're auditioning, like say I'm auditioning, you're reading with me, it's like, okay, ready to start? Okay. And then we start. It's just that in between action and cut is everything, it's just nothing exists, other than that. And I suppose I'm addicted to it.
Yeah.
And that's what I do,
Yeah.
So,
well, you do art, and you're an actor, you're an actor. What about acting spoke to you as a younger person? I mean, what the hell got you into this crazy business to begin with?
I've always considered myself an artist, even when I was little. Like my first memories were drawing in the sand, and then later I would write and draw pictures of what happened. And in one house, I drew all over the walls. I don't know how my parents didn't know. When we sold the house, they were very upset. But I wanted to be a ballet dancer.
Okay.
Yeah, but that was not an option. So,
okay.
So that gets put on hold, and then I'm in Pratt, and a teacher said that if I turn something into a play, because it was an illustration teacher, Baron's story, if I turn this concept into a play, I never had to do another assignment for the rest of the semester. I thought that would be very easy. It was very difficult. But so I built the sets, I wrote it, I had my boyfriend and this other guy we lived with, we were performing in it. But I didn't perform until the curtain goes up and I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta play this part. So because I, wrote and painted, and that's who I am, writing and painting and building and this and that, so that, and having worked with these guys, and boyfriend I wanted to kill, when I stepped on the stage to be it wasn't, it was like a continuation of everything I had done. And in illustration class, we were expected to read this book by Stanislavski, which is like one of the beginnings of trying to make acting real in Russia, this concept.
Okay. Yeah.
And the teacher that I was studying with wanted us to read these acting books because how you pose the model, I'm relaying emotion to you. So I'd also had that, because I'd been studying. And I suddenly realized that I had not only painted it, acting, even though I had no lines, physically acting was being the painting, being the painter, and watching the painting unfold all at the same time. And so for me, it was the ultimate art form because you're in it, and yet, as with a painting, we watch actors. You can't watch a movie and go, okay, so I'm gonna read, and listen. You can't, like you have to watch. So it's like you're watching a moving painting, like the Muybridge, the first like concept of photographs to show movement. You're watching. So I thought, as an actor, it's like the ultimate art form. Like you're it. How more in it could could you be?
Yeah.
You're still yourself, and yet you put on this and and then you have these lines, and that forces you to. I mean, it's everything. So that's not really the acting business, but that's where I came from.
Well, that's where it planted the seed that grew, and it's amazing because the way you were talking about that, you wrote it, you designed and painted, and you weren't really prepared for the acting part, but that you didn't think you spent enough time on the acting part. But what it seems to me is that everything you did imbued itself into you to do the role regardless. It's like you were doing the preparation without even realizing you were doing the preparation.
Exactly. And then, I was like, oh, I'm going to audition for things. In those days you got backstage in New York. And so I auditioned, and it's like, you got to memorize a monologue. I'm like, okay, well, I have always loved Tennessee Williams. So I memorized this monologue from Streetcar Named Desire, Blanche.
Okay.
And I go into this tiny bar, Lower East Side, in the day. It's like crap. It stinks, tiny stage and these spotlights. It was probably at like a stripper bar. But I'm taking it seriously because I'm going to be an actor. And they're like, okay, do your monologue. Yeah. Like, okay. And I start to do this monologue. And then again, I have always loved writers. Okay. So Tennessee Williams, like first time I read him, he got my heart, soul. So I'm reading this and suddenly like I'm feeling it. And then the light is so bright in my eye that something happens where I'm distracted, but I'm saying the lines and I start crying. I just thought you memorized monologue. I start crying, it slows me down, something happens, and it ends, and they're sitting there like, oh my God, you've got to come back tomorrow for the other guys to see you. I didn't, because then I knew I couldn't recreate that. That's what acting is. Like part of the acting thing. You have to be able to recreate it. And I was like, I don't know how it like I can't like look at the light and wait for it to like. So that's when it became serious.
Okay, I get it. So you took more attention to the craft of it.
Because how do you repeat something over and over, like, or give it a different take, or bring another emotion on demand? I guess that's the craft. I don't know. You know what? I don't know what I'm talking about. I know nothing about
you sound like you know what you're talking about.
I quit. Does it make me realize I'm just blabbering and I don't know jack shit?
I think you were making a point, whether you realize it or not. I think you were doing fine. Well, let me ask you is something different, because I mean we've been talking for a while, so I figure we'll probably try to wrap it up here. But it's been awesome talking to you. I could feel like I could do this for a while. What other things besides painting and acting, which are painting is an extension of yourself, and acting is to some extent is as much a passion as it is a job. What other things bring you joy outside of those two things?
Well, I write.
Okay.
I've made 2 films.
You directed one.
Drowning. I'm proud of Drowning, and a short I did called The Muse, and I've written several scripts, and I'm trying to get them made. I have 2 kids. That's been.
Yeah. I've got a 30-year-old actually, and so yeah, kids can be amazing at times.
I mean, it changes your life. It changes
your
whole life. I love them unconditionally.
Yeah.
I mean, I can get mad, but I love them.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. No, there have been plenty of times I've been mad at my son for different things, but I still love him to death. Is it hard having them be on the East Coast with you being on the West Coast, especially these days?
Well, with the virus, it was hard. I went to see them in June, and I hadn't seen them for about a year and 3 months. What I love about my kids is that they're really independent and they're on their own path. I really respect them for that and admire them. And but we talk all the time, but because of the virus, they were concerned about traveling. They were concerned about me traveling if I hadn't been vaccinated, or if I was gonna, and they hadn't been, and I was gonna bring it to them. And
yeah, no, it's understandable concerns.
So I kind of have been wondering if I want to move back to New York now that you asked that
Okay.
question.
Do you think that's going to be a difficult decision?
No.
No?
I mean, it'll happen when it happens.
How long have you been in LA?
Too long.
Yeah. To the point where you're not sure if you even like being there anymore.
I don't know. I have a love-hate relationship with LA.
Well, yeah. Go ahead.
When I write scripts, most of them are based in LA because it has such a distinct. It's a character.
Right.
I love. One of the first things that I fell in love with coming here was Dia de los Muertos and the connection to Frida Kahlo and all of that.
Right.
I love that very few people are from here,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I shot in Alaska once, so that's about as far west as you can go.
Yeah.
Sometimes I want to move to Alaska.
Well, that's interesting. I don't think I could handle that myself. I've actually been considering moving to New Orleans, but then this hurricane kind of freaked me out a bit, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, the idea of going somewhere else is an exciting proposition, I can imagine. You I know that you were born in Saudi Arabia. What were your parents doing that you were born in Saudi Arabia at that time?
They had sex there, and 9 months later I was born.
So it wasn't like he had a consulate job or anything.
He had been in the military. And then he worked for an oil company.
Okay.
And he married my mother, and she lived with him because they were married.
Yeah.
And so there was a deal with the consulate, and everything where American children born of American parents, even though on international foreign ground, are immediately American citizens.
Right.
So my parents were both American citizens, and both had people fighting in like World War I, and my mother had people fighting from the beginning of time.
Okay, interesting. And did you spend any kind of time there?
I spent my first 3 years there, and then we moved to Holland, and then I went back like 2nd or 3rd grade through 9th grade. Because the educational facilities at that point, in those days, ended then, and then you were sent to boarding school, American boarding school, like American education.
Right.
So, yeah, formative years, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I have to. You had a very different growing up than most people, because you didn't spend a ton of time in America.
No. And also Holland and Saudi Arabia are completely polar opposites.
Oh, for sure.
Nature, geology, just everything is opposite.
Yeah, for sure. What was it like living? What do you recall about living in Holland?
My stepmother was Dutch.
Okay.
And her mother was actually a World War One war orphan from Belgium.
Okay.
And she was basically my mother, my Oma.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I loved my Oma. I could start crying. Like I loved her so much.
Yeah. When you finally moved to America, though, what culturally, how jarring was that? Because
it was jarring. Like my father's people are from northwestern Arkansas and they're German immigrants, and so my grandparents were farmers, like in northwestern Arkansas, in the mountains, like for real farmers.
Yeah,
that's how they survived.
Right.
Farmers, like they worked the land.
I have farmers in my bloodline too on my dad's side.
So,
Germans as well.
Yeah, so they worked the land. They didn't hire people. Like
right.
They worked the land. But and German Catholic escaping religious persecution with unifying Germany at the time. So my concept of America was this house in the middle of mountains and going to mass in the morning and evening and working, like I spent a few summers on the farm. But that's not America, okay?
Yeah.
I went to boarding school north of Chicago.
Oh, interesting.
And I guess I was 14 or 15, and all of these girls had their hair done, and they had makeup, and they had heels, and they had the thing. And I'm dressed like an idiot, and everybody's so fast. And I was like, oh. I think my culture shock was that it's so fast here.
Yeah.
Fast and aggressive. And we all know growing up competition, but like hardcore competition. And I was like, oh. Oh. And they all thought I was half Arab because, my hair is naturally dark in the shape of my eyes and I can get very tan.
Right.
So they're like, think I'm half Arab. Also the fact that they must have thought I didn't speak English because I was just like
quiet. Where north of Chicago? Do you remember the town?
Lake Forest Academy.
Oh yeah. I used to live up near there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, wow. That's a pretty impressive area, actually. So your dad was in the oil business the whole time? It had to be pretty interesting for him, moving all around, all over the place.
Very intense.
Yeah.
So, not very welcome,
What's that?
Not very welcoming.
No. Also, get uprooting yourself all the time, just has to be difficult. But when you decided to become an actor, you moved to New York first?
I was in high school. The art teacher was like, "You're really gifted, and you should go to art school. And if you want to make it as an artist, you got to go to New York."
Yeah.
So I did.
Yeah.
That was another culture shock.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't. Honestly, I've never even been to New York, and I can imagine it when I finally do get there. It's going to be, Chicago is literally secondary in terms of overwhelming from what I can gather of what New York City is. And I just know that I'm in for extreme culture shock when I go there, because anywhere else I've been has been smaller places, New Orleans or Vegas or St. Louis or wherever. It hasn't been something. I went to London when I was a kid, but that was so long ago that I can't really remember how I felt. But New York it seems like something other.
but it's constantly changing. Like I was there in June. You know, but everything right now is changing.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
cultural climate, like, you know,
We're in some really interesting times, that's for sure. And there, a lot of how we do everything has changed so dramatically, and it's not done changing either, because we're not done with this. And yeah, I think one reason why people are so anxious right now is because we don't know when this is going to end, and we don't know what we're going to look like when we come out of it, and what does our reality look like when we're done, you know, when this finally runs its course, or is there another worse one around the corner, which is another horrifying, or the environment. Oh my god, I'm just getting into a dark place. Anyways, this is how my mind works. I just kind of go down a rabbit hole of weirdness. Well, is there anything I'm missing that we should discuss, you think? I think we've covered an awful lot, and you know, you got to interview me, which was, you know, unique for me, maybe not so much for you, but it was unique for me, at least. You know, is there anything else that we haven't talked about that might be on the horizon that we need to discuss? We talked about American Gigolo. We talked about Hard Luck Love Song, which was the main reason we were both here today, which is out. I'm going to say October 15th, but it will the show will air in tandem with its release. So, yeah, we're fine with you not knowing.
I show up, I do my job, and then I leave.
Right. You're not a producer on it. You're not the writer. You're not the director. I get it. No, I get it. There's a certain different set of circumstances and you're not the lead, so you're not burdened with having the whole thing on your shoulders either. You have the role and you move on. Yeah. Well, I think that's a good spot to end on. I gotta say, this has been one of the most interesting conversations I've had, because I didn't have any frame of reference in my mind in how this would go. I gotta say, I haven't seen you interviewed, I don't think, before, so I didn't know what to expect, and this has been a real pleasure. Actually, it's been a real pleasure talking to you. Yeah,
it was a pleasure talking to you.
I appreciate that too. Yeah, thank you, and I wish you good luck going forward, and good luck if you decide to move to New York and you know, be reunited with your children. That would probably be a great thing. Get the hell out of LA. You know. Yeah. Well, thank you again for taking the time, and like I said, I wish you, you know, health and happiness and all the best.
And you.
Thank you very much. Well, you have a good rest of your day. Okay.
Okay, you too.
Thank you. All right. Bye.
Bye.